Hello and welcome back. So let's take a look at some more variations we can add to this. Let's work on the wall one more time. So although I'm tweaking the roughness with the alpha offset, one thing that Substance cannot do for you is that in Substance you can set up the breakup, but you cannot set up the breakup based on the variation of your actual model. And you could have a giant wall, and you know that the smaller breakup you made in Substance material does not have any idea on how that wall changes. Okay, and that's going to become a big issue. So for example, in Maya, maybe I want to say, how about I want the top of the wall to be, or the higher area of the wall to be a bit shinier or a bit rougher. I'm not sure which way. Should be much. I think it should be a little bit more shinier because, I think it should. I'm not sure. Maybe we can take a look, but I just want to make some variations, right? So if you take a look at the model here and take a look at the UV, you can see, well, the UV is like this. Okay, all right. So that means I can create a ramp and use that ramp to direct the roughness to be a bit different. Let's take a look at that. So I'm gonna go create a blend color node. Okay. So for the blend color node, oh, you know what? That would be a good idea actually. I'm gonna try to do this. I'm gonna try to create a ramp node right away. So ramp texture. Okay. And then for the ramp, I'm gonna change it to a VRamp. It's already a VRamp, so that's good. So if I were to use this ramp, I'm gonna connect out color to the specular roughness. Okay, if I swap that to this guy, I should be able to see it changes drastically. So let me go hit render. You can see it looks very different. I can click on the ramp and hit this little button here to see how that ramp looks like. You can see it's a little darker here, it's a little bright there, because if you do recall, the UV is not stretching right through this entire U1v1 space. So I have to pinch it in by doing this. Okay. So that little isolate is gonna isolate whatever I'm tweaking here, which is actually pretty neat. So if I were to make the top a little bit more shiny and bottom a little bit rougher, I should do something like this. Right. Okay, actually that goes to the top. That goes to there, and we can also change the ramp type to actually interpolation to be one, to be a smoother one. So we got this gradient. Okay, and I can of course remap it in whatever way I want by creating new pins and drag them around. All right, now unclick that. You can then feel like it's rougher here on top. It gets not as rough when it reaches to the bottom. Okay, let me delete that little pin there and that little pin. So maybe I can squeeze in to make. Huh, that's interesting. Oh yeah, that's right. I'm remapping. You can see the bottom is actually super rough now, while the top is not that rough. It's more shiny, right? So we can use a ramp to redefine the roughness. Okay. Okay. So let me have this really nice fall off. The bottom one is more rougher and top one is more shinier. Okay. So in this case, what I can do is I can try to blend those two together, right? Try to have some blending. Now to blend things together, there's a blend node, or actually a layer texture node. Okay, so the layer texture node, you can just drag in your textures. I'm gonna drag the ramp in, close that, close that, and then minimal drag the concave wall roughness in. So we have two of these guys, right? And then for now, they're over. So it just try to think of this tilt this guy clockwise 90 degrees, and you got the correct up and down. So this is on top basically, and this is on the bottom. And let's connect this guy's result out color into the specular roughness. Okay. And then for now we're still having the top one because our ramp is on top, but we can then change the blending mode to be something different. Like again, we can grab this guy and take a look at that by isolating it. I can change it to maybe a subtract, maybe multiply. Yeah, multiply is really cool. So now you can see the power of using the node-based way here, we're still doing procedural. We can change it whenever we want, and we got exactly what we see eventually, right? So now when I multiply, it's giving me this. Now that's probably too much of offset. Is making everything darker. So that's when I can go crank the alpha. Okay. If that's 0, what I got? Let's take a look. I'm getting the original one. Oh, that's because here we were using the color gain, right, to define it. I can offset it now because the problem is it's not alpha anymore. We changed alpha earlier, but it's now shouldn't be alpha anymore. So I'm gonna crank up the color offset to make it rougher. So that's what we have earlier actually. Now we have multiplied a ramp on it. For now it's 0. We can then crank up the alpha a little bit more. Can see now what it does is it's trying to make the top a bit more smooth and the bottom as not as smooth. Okay, I keep cranking that up. You can see what's going on here, and we can even tighten that up by dragging this guy over to the top. Okay, you can see now the bottom is still gonna be fairly rough. Okay, oh actually, yeah, we can see that. With that being seen, oh, we can also do this. Grab this guy, and then if we want to just see the result of this guy, we can lock it here, and we can go back to the ramp, and then we can tweak the ramp. Okay. So maybe I want the top to be darker, and the bottom to be brighter. Okay. Okay, and for the bottom one, if I wanted to, I can pass in a noise here. If I can go there and then pick a file here, I can then pick maybe. I believe I have a grunge somewhere. Yeah, open that. Then I'm having a grunge map down there. So you can see how much more flexibility we can add in here instead of Maya's own node-based way of tweaking stuff. Now let me turn off that. Okay, you can see it's get a little bit more interesting. Okay, so you can feel like the bottom areas are still rough, and top ones are sharp, are more shiny. That variation is not able to be achieved inside of designer because the designer's point of view, it just when it tiles, it just tiles the same thing. But here we don't tile the same thing anymore, right? We use the variation that designer gave us, and we add extra variation ourselves, so that the bigger variations in this case. Okay. Anyway, I still don't want the top to be that shiny, so I'm gonna go to the wrap here and grab this guy. I'm gonna make it brighter. Okay. You can see that's still really flexible, right? I can make that brighter, and then it's gonna solve that problem for me. Okay. Let me again go to isolate mode. Let's see what we got here. Can make the top darker or brighter based, that's all based on how much roughness I want to go for. And this one we're using the grunge map here. We can also offset that to make that even rougher. Okay. Now we can take a look at the final result. You can see we have really rough bottom area, and the top area feels a bit shinier, but not very shiny. And also we have this really nice breakup because of the grunge map we're using. Okay, cool. So that's gonna be one more thing we can do, right? I think roughness is actually a very important part of the material, so you take care of that as soon as possible. In my opinion, it's actually more important than the color. Okay. Anyway, so let's move on to the next video, and we talk about how we can actually layer multiple materials together to even further enhance the graphic. Okay, cool. See you next time.